to the Veggie Shift. Today we have a very special guest. We have James Sant with us. He is a lifelong professional artist. James has worked in about every medium in art, including clay art, sculpting, painting, textile art, set design, art administration, film documentary, and photography. A serious industrial accident led him to discover the power of healing through a diet based on living foods. James has taken his lifelong passion for plant-based eating and merged with it his artistic talents, becoming a certified gourmet raw food chef, raw pastry chef, as well as a yoga and chef instructor. He is currently the culinary programs and creative artistic director for Living Light Culinary on the beautiful Mendocino coast in Northern California. James, welcome to the Veggie Shift. It's an honor to have you here with us today.
Thank you, Cristina. It's really an honor to be here. And I love following your journey. And I knew immediately that I wanted to do this when I got your message. So.
Thank you. Maybe all of you guys don't know, but Living Light Culinary Institute is a very dear place to me. That's where I became a chef initially. That's where I became an instructor in it later on in life and had a lot to do with the food styling and the chef program in that school. So it is quite a dear institution to me, and this place is getting better and better by the minute. And James is here with all his generosity to talk to us about a couple of things, mainly about living ferments, which is going to be really exciting. So first of all, can you tell us a little bit about your journey and how you got to Living Light and what you're doing there these days, James?
Sure. I went through an industrial accident about 7 years ago, and in the process of healing myself, discovered the key was pH balance and restructuring and going and healing through the surgeries that I was facing. And I don't like Western medicine. And so I was trying to find a way to not be on any drugs in the process also. And thus, to make a long story short, I stumbled into raw food, which is the alkaline fuel source coming in for our body that keeps that perfect pH balance that is so important whenever you're healing through anything. But in the process, it took years off my life, like 10 years off my life. I'm 55 this year, and I feel like I'm going on 25. I have endless energy, and I knew the minute I healed through this entire accident that this needed to be my life work. And so I started researching programs and ended up going through Living Light's entire curriculum and was hired on immediately afterwards to go and teach for them. And so I've been teaching here for 5 years now, and here's to manifesting. Now I am the culinary programs director 5 years later, and very passionate about living foods and all the benefits they have for people's lives. I'm also very passionate fermenter. My kids call me the fermentation station because you never know what you're going to see growing in my fridge or in my cupboards. I've been doing that for far longer than I have even been in the raw food movement. And this year is actually our 20th anniversary of Living Light Culinary. So as the original troubadours and the original mothership of creating gourmet food in a plant-based raw vegan method, we're celebrating 20 years of it this year, and we're expanding on that 20th year into all new areas. Our raw program is as strong as ever, but now we're going to open that umbrella a little wider and include cooked vegan, gently cooked vegan, not overcooked, but bringing some heat back to the table, because the conversation on an international level has exploded about the benefits of a plant-based lifestyle and how blissful that kind of eating can be and delectable it can be. And so we're opening up a whole new branch into cooked vegan. And so it's a great opportunity for all of our graduates who've been through the whole program to come back and do some more exploration with us also. So it's very, very cool.
That's really awesome. And I've always been a big believer that no one has to eat raw foods all the time to be in love with them. I've never certainly been, eating one type of food in any type of cuisine. So just having an expanded plant-based education seems amazing.
Yes, I totally agree. And, there isn't one of the instructors in my program that are 100% raw, but we know the power of it. When we need to go through a healing phase of any kind, we can go 100% raw and see the benefits of it. And then we all have different various levels of how much of our particular lifestyle is plant-based, you know. And I'm 100% plant-based, but I'm only about 80% raw. And I enjoy beautiful cooked rice and beans, and I make tempeh. I ferment my own tempeh, but then I want to fry that tempeh and make some tempeh bacon and different things out of it. So I have some fun in that 20% of cooked food, but I know that power of the plant-based and the pH balance it gives me. So I always return to that. So
Yeah. That's where I go straight to juice. When I'm juicing, I'm 100% raw. It's the only times. James,
yeah.
can you tell us some of the courses that are being taught at Living Light these days, so those of us who have never seen or heard about it can get a little bit of an idea of what goes on in that magic school?
Sure. We've got a few different weeks. This is a very concentrated program. We take what normally would be 6 months worth of classes at another culinary school. We're only going a few days a week, and really concentrate it down into about a month of every day, dawn to dusk almost, of working out recipes and learning the textures and the flavors for stunning, superb food. And we start with a week of what we call essentials. And that's where we learn all about all the cuts and the equipment that you need to make that shift into treating your food in a different way, because you're not going to have the intention of baking it or cooking it down. So you need thinner slices and a little bit, a little different techniques. And we bring in Vitamixes and Cuisinarts and mandolins and all that stuff. Once we get all those basics down, we go into the intermediate week. And in the intermediate week, we're going to focus on recipe development. We've given them a lot of tools and essentials about how to understand flavor balance and texture, and how to include all of the vitamins and phytonutrients into a perfect dish. Now we turn the table and say, you're not going to be making our recipes. Now you get to decide how to make a great appetizer, a great dessert, a great soup, a great salad dressing. So we stumble into helping them become a chef, basically, in their own world of exploration. And whether that's going to be to write a cookbook or to just go and have a more optimized, beautiful, invigorating lifestyle, they're going to step into that and walk away from our program with the ability to take the old cookbooks, all of their old ones. I say, don't throw away your cookbooks.
Mm-hmm.
What I'm going to teach you is conversion. Now you can go back to every single one of those ethnic cookbooks and make a living food version of any of those recipes. That's what we're mastering in that second week, or lighting the flame for in the second week, I should say. And then we go into the mastery week. That's our third week. And in that week, we're going to learn to present, learn to teach. One of my favorite quotes is Maya Angelou, who said, if you get, give; if you learn, teach. So we're going to give you the gifts of living food, and we're also going to show you how to go out and teach it to the world. So we teach people how to get up and give a beautiful presentation, and whether it is just in their own kitchen on a one-on-one coaching, or whether they opt to go out and start a series of classes in their community and make money that way, or they want to go out on the circuit to the expos and the festivals. I go to Burning Man, I go to Symbiosis, all these other festivals, and do food demos for the young people too, and get them excited about food. So they walk away with that skill, and that's so awesome. And then they can come back. Once they're all excited about that, they can come back for our Gourmet Series, which is what's going on right now. And in that one, it's a lot of recipe development, like we had in that middle week, the intermediate, but really turning up the heat. We bring in Vanette Thompson, who's here teaching right now, and she's so fantastic, and takes them through every ethnic region of the entire world in recipe development on a really intense level. It's really, really fun. And then they'll learn to, on the second week, to do a twist on that by going into spa. Let's take out the oils. Let's take, less salt, less pungence, but make really incredible, delicious, healthy spa-related food that is remarkable and breathtaking and unique, so it really works. And that's why we have been pumping out some of the top names in the raw food world for 20 years. And they've all shot to the top, you know, yourself and Chad Sarno and all these different people, Nina Curtis, lots of different examples I have of people that are really fantastic and have been defining the edge in living foods. And they've come through this program as one of the starting points in their journeys.
Wow, thank you. That's incredible. And in addition to the culinary classes, are there any classroom classes that complement what's going on with the kitchen? Or are there any pastry courses? Anything else happening beyond the chef curriculum?
Desserts, I'm glad you mentioned that. We do have an advanced, more of a dessert, a concentrated dessert program, raw vegan desserts, where we go into the most advanced techniques you can imagine in dessert making, how to get the perfect cheesecakes or a wedding cake or even cinnamon rolls or truffles, you name it, but with more whole sugars and more healthier versions of anything you can imagine. Of course, there's heavy creams in it, but that heavy cream is from young Thai coconuts. It's not from a cow, you know? So these are all wonderful, wonderful new versions of all the classic desserts. So, and in addition to that, we've got one new exciting thing also. We've taken over the old hospital in town, the Gray Well Inn, and we're renovating that for what we're calling cultural culinary tourism. And we're going to have ocean to table, forest to table, and garden to table. All of the grounds around there are becoming edible, beautiful gardens. And at our Living Light Inn, we're transforming to edible gardens. And beyond what we're getting out of those gardens, we're going to take them up into the Mendocino forest, which has some of the best mushroom hunting in the entire country, and bring back mushrooms and create gourmet food with them. Take them out to the coastline here, which also has some of the best seaweed harvesting in the entire world, and show them how beautiful and easy it is to collect really delicious sea vegetables, which are so important in a healthy diet for iodine levels and any number of different things. So real exciting new things that even people who have been through our entire program will be tempted to come back and continue and expand upon, you know. So it's very exciting to go back and contact all these alumni and show them what's happening here in Fort Bragg.
Absolutely. So, count me in for any of those. Farm to table, ocean to table, mushroom foraging in the Mendocino redwood forests. Definitely, please.
I look forward to having you come back and experiencing it. It would be really fun.
Absolutely. So for those of you who are watching and you heard him talk about cinnamon rolls and pastry and ocean to table, you got to remember, ocean to table means sea vegetables to table. None of the fishes, none of that. It's all exclusively plant-based. And when he was talking about cinnamon rolls and wedding cakes, these are all raw, which is under 115 or 118, depending on who you listen to, degrees in temperature, or 42 degrees Celsius, if that's the way you're used to measuring temperatures. So these are very unique techniques to get the food to stay in that shape and then have great, amazing flavors. Exactly.
All the awesome phytonutrients and vitamins and that are so important to our system, and enzymes that make the difference in living food in our body and help with weight loss or sustaining a good body mass index. All of that plays in. So
absolutely. So that's basically all the raw living foods. But when it comes to really, really living foods, we're talking about ferments, about cultures. And James is a master extraordinaire of living ferments. So I want to have the opportunity to ask all the questions in the world. Please get me started on this long history of fermentation that you have, and tell us a little bit about it and educate us on ferments, please.
Okay, well, I've always been doing krauts all my life. I love making kraut. It's so easy, and I met Sandor Katz, one of the top names out there in the fermenting world. His sister lived in Bend, Oregon, and he was there doing a tincture workshop at a friend's business in town. And I went to the tincture workshop and got talking to him, and I was doing home brewed beers at the time. And he said, "Have you ever done herbal beer?" And he did a private little workshop with us and showed us how to do yarrow beer and skullcap beer, and all these wonderful wild harvested flower tops that we were going out and making these wonderful herbal beers. And I was so intrigued by him, I ended up going out and getting his wild fermentation book, and that really took me down the rabbit hole. That was in the 90s of fermentation. So I've just been having fun with that forever. He has a newer book now, The Art of Fermentation, which has become the Bible for ferment freaks like myself. And he goes through every kind of fermentation across the planet, anything you can imagine. I really love Sandor Katz. I'm also a huge fan of Pascal Bedard. I haven't met him personally, but he's down in the LA area, and he does wild ferments out in the woods, where he goes out and wild onions and pine cones and pine needles and all kinds of stuff, and makes beers and vinegars and tinctures out of them that are just amazing. So I'm always looking for new frontiers in that area, and tempting myself to try different things. But beyond that, when I got into living foods, this fit perfectly, because ferments, you don't have to cook them. There are some people that do, but I don't. All the ferments I do are truly living cultures, and it's all about the microbiome in your gut when it comes down to it. And if you've got a happy microbiome, they say it's as important, and it is the precursor to good brain health. And I love the book Brain Maker that came out from David Perlmutter. Amazing. He's a neuroscientist that works with patients and had done long-term 10-year studies on probiotics and the microbiome in the gut and how important it is, and including tempeh, kombucha, kefir, in this case, water kefir crystals. I don't do the dairy kefir. Some people can do that if they can handle dairy, but I do the water kefir vegan version. Kimchis, krauts, pickled vegetables, and that includes all kinds of different things in that area. Everything from a classic pickle to just asparagus, or I'll pickle anything. And it's a lacto fermentation, just with a salt brine that brings out the natural lactobacillus in the vegetables, which is so incredible for our gut. And then fiery ferments. I love hot sauces and salsas and things like that. And so I do those as a ferment, and they're so much healthier than cooked traditional hot sauces that you would buy at the store. So every avenue I can think of for having great probiotics coming in is the key to my obsession with fermentation. So
I like that. So I've always dumbed this down to make it really simple. And I tell people, fermenting foods is either you put a lot of sugar, you put a bit of salt, and you let things kind of eat themselves up, and they'll produce bacteria and they'll become really healthy. And it is kind of a silly way to put it dumbed down. But for example, can we walk someone through like the process of fermenting cabbage to produce a kraut?
Yeah, it's so simple. 3 ingredients to make a great, incredible, juicy kraut: cabbage, salt, and love. And the love is your hands, because you got to massage it. So for 1 head of cabbage, you're just going to slice it up with a chef knife or a mandolin and throw it into a giant bowl, and then you're going to put about 1 tablespoon of salt over it and massage that in. I always put on some vinyl gloves, because no matter how clean you get your hands, under your fingernails can be the wrong kind of bacteria, and we want to keep with the good bacteria. And that salt is going to start to break open the cells in the cabbage. And cabbage has one of the most incredible beneficial probiotics, prebiotics, that becomes a probiotic within them that is so incredible for our gut, and really is important, an important part of anyone's diet. And it's interesting how cultures all over the world haven't recognized that, whether it's the kimchis or the classic European krauts. But you're just going to massage that cabbage up a little bit, probably only about 5 minutes. I'm not a fan of over massaging it to mush. So just enough to start coaxing it and sweating it, then put a towel over it so that no flies will get in it. Walk away and go dance with your sweetie or walk the dog or something for about an hour and a half, and come back, and you'll see that a lot of the brine, the juice of the cabbage, has now come out. The salt is doing its work for you. Then you're going to pack it into a crock, either ceramic or glass, and really pack it down in there into the crock until you've got that brine above the level of the vegetable or the cabbage. The What I teach people is that there's a rhyme that will always keep you in the good with cabbage and that, or kraut, and that is, if you're in the brine, you're fine. Okay, so you want to keep all those veggies down in the brine, and that goes for all ferments, by the way. You always want to have some kind of weight holding those vegetables down in the brine, because that brine has the salt in it, makes it antimicrobial, and the good bacteria are flourishing in there, and it keeps the bad bacteria out. If there's veggies sticking up out of the brine, they can develop molds that we don't want. So you're going to put a weight in there, and then you're going to cover it with a towel. I like to put a rubber band around the top too to keep any fruit flies from getting up and in there. Or if you have a kraut that has a water moat, or a crock that has a water moat lid, and people can look that up, that can prevent any flies from getting in. Set it aside and let it go for 12 to 14 days, and you have a beautiful, yummy, delicious, crunchy kraut. And just pack it into jars and put it in the fridge, and you're good to go.
Yummy. So that's a salt fermentation. Let's talk about a sweet fermentation.
Okay. Well, when I'm using a sugar type fermentation, what I like to do is use a vegan culture starter. I like Caldwell's vegan culture starter. And you can use that in any number of different, like chutneys or jams or different things like that. It also introduces a great bacteria in there. It's just kind of an acidophilus that is going to, and there's no reason to not ferment those too. You're just going to make them in the regular way that you would. Of course, I am choosing not to cook them down. I'm going to just blend them up and use I like to use whole sweeteners myself. I'm more apt to go to date paste or to another dried fruit and blend that into my jams or chutneys. And then I'm going to add that vegan culture starter in there and let it sit on the counter for 2 days, 3 days. You'll see it starting to get bubbly. And then you can try it, and you'll know when it's finished. And then it can go in the fridge. And it lasts a long time. It actually lasts much more healthy and longer than a normal jar of jam without molding in the fridge. So those are fun to do too.
That sounds really good.
And vegan culture starter is a good thing for people to know about if they're on a low sodium diet, because all of the natural lacto fermentations that we would do a salt brine in, you can use less salt if you also introduce a vegan culture starter. So I am a big fan of that, because some people are afraid of too much fermentation because they think it involves salt too much, but there are ways you can do it without as much salt. So if you want to be looking into that, look into vegan culture starters, So, and then there's other great fun culturing things like tempeh. Tempeh, people think of just soybeans, but any legume, any bean can be made into tempeh. And I've tried them all. I've done black bean tempehs and kidney bean tempehs and pinto bean tempehs and garbanzo bean tempehs, and mix and matched some of the beans together. I love making tempeh, and it's just its own kind of culture that you introduce onto these beans and pack them into the little patties and culture them at a certain temperature. And it's really fun. And it's a great source of protein.
And do you start with raw beans, or have you just basically sprouted them? How does the tempeh process work?
The tempeh process is not 100% in the raw zone, because you have to cook the beans slightly, but you're not cooking them like we normally do. You're just cooking them slightly and loosening up the skins, and then you're going to roll them in a towel and take the skins off. You actually have to skin them. So you got to really love tempeh to do this process, because you have to skin all these beans, because the culture that turns it into that cake that we know as tempeh can't get through the skin. The skin is very protective on a bean, so we're going to take that skin off, and we're doing that with a boiling bath for a little bit to loosen up those skins, but keeping it still undercooked. And then you just peel the skins off. You're going to introduce a little bit of an apple cider vinegar and toss that through them. And then you put the culture in, stir it in, and you're going to sometimes put them in a Cuisinart and chop them down a little bit. if you need to. And then, but if they're real tiny, sometimes you don't need to do that. And then just shape them into whatever mold form you want for the shape of tempeh you want, and let them go at a very controlled temperature. And you'll see that white culture come over them like we all think of when we look at tempeh, and it's delicious. It's fun. I love extra adventures like that, so.
And you have taken off the skins, which is what makes legumes difficult to digest. So this is probably really easy to digest because it's fermented and because it has no skins. Absolutely.
Absolutely. They say that it is a more bioavailable, the protein that you're going to get, and it's so pleasing to the palate, much more than, and it has all those phytonutrients and vitamins because we haven't cooked the beans for hours on the stove to get them there.
Yeah.
We're letting the natural culture go in and make them palatable for us. So, and you can use tempeh raw, or you can cook it. I do like to saute it. I use it both ways. You can dice it and throw it in a salad, or just put it into a marinade. We love using marinades, as you're well aware, here at the school. And tempeh is a classic example of that. I can put a beautiful marinade on it and throw it in the dehydrator and warm it up before I'm going to serve it, and have it on a salad or in soups or any number of different ways. So I can either do that, or I can fry it into fake and bacon if I wanted to make a BLT with tempeh, which is one of my favorite things to do.
That sounds yummy. And most people, when they think about fermentations, they immediately think about dairy, because dairy is such a big part of the mainstream culture. What dairy-like replacements do you ferment in the plant-based world?
A lot. That opens up a whole other category that I hadn't gotten to yet, and that's cheeses. And I'm passionate about cheeses. And I do everything from classic cream cheese or sour cream, and that would be from a cashew-based cheese. And I'm just introducing a little probiotic into it. It can be a bifidus or an acidophilus, and letting it sit usually just overnight on the counter is perfectly fine to give it that nice tart, just like a sour cream. And that's more of a quick cheese. And that also can be done with young Thai coconut meat, by the way. And you can blend the two. You didn't want it as heavy of a sour cream or cream cheese. Bring some coconut meat into the picture, which also ferments beautifully with these probiotics. And then I go into the block cheeses also. I love doing smoky cheddars and goudas, smoked goudas, and things like that. And I'm blending all kinds of different nuts together to get different headier flavors or flavor profiles to do that. Vegan cheese making is so fun, and it's a huge new category that is really taking off in the last few years. I've even perfected a brie that grows the culture on the outside of the skin. That white skin that is the classic, what you would think of as the brie. And this stuff, I'm telling you, I can serve it to people that don't know that it's vegan, and they're what? And they seriously cannot believe that it is not vegan, or that it's not dairy, that it is vegan, and that it is a nut-based brie, so.
That sounds incredible. That's definitely something I want to learn more about.
Yeah.
And
cheeses too. I'm getting, that's a new category for me too, is I got a wine refrigerator that is at a lower cave temperature. That was the key. That was a big turning point in my learning how to do wonderful aged cheeses, is looking back at the history of cheese. And cheese has always been made in the caves in Europe. And caves are at about 52 degrees. And I thought, okay, because I'd been trying to age vegan cheeses, but they were molding in weird ways on me and doing things that just didn't make sense. And I thought, okay, I'm going back to the old methods. So I changed the probiotic to a bifidus instead of an acidophilus, and got it at 52 degrees. And that was the big light bulb that went on in getting the brie and these stinkier aged cheeses that I get in my block cheeses too. So it's a fun adventure, the whole cheese thing. And I take part in cheese blogs with other vegans around the world, and we share ideas, and light bulbs are going on, and we're running off into different directions constantly. Wow. So some tips and tricks I've gotten from other people too, because we're all sharing, and gotta love the internet for that. in the culinary world and the explosion of plant-based knowledge. So
Yeah. I'm very impressed at the store, the amount of plant-based cheeses that are available. In your opinion, have you been able to create a plant-based cheese that either melts or stretches?
yes.
Yes. Well, tell me more.
The key there is tapioca, um, tapioca powder. If you can get that into the cheese, and you're going to have to heat it up a little bit, and I gently heat it just a little bit to get that to assimilate into my base, my cashew base, or whatever it is that the cheese is being made of. But later on, that's the one that you can put on a pizza, grate on a pizza, and when you pick it up, whether you're doing it in the dehydrator or in the oven, you get that long, stretchy cheese to come off of there. So there's a way to do anything, you know. And
Yes,
then
there is.
seaweed into the picture too. Agar plays a role, you know. That's how we get the cheeses to be in a block form. So I can create beautiful cheese platters with sliced up smoked goudas and smoky cheddars and all kinds of different things. So the thickening agent, you know, we'd have to come up with. The nut cheeses don't quite set up the same way that dairy does, and so I'll cheat and put a little bit of agar in there to get them to set to the perfect al dente, or not al dente, but smooth texture that I want. That's firm enough, but not too firm and gelatiny like agar can be. So you got to be careful with it, you know. I've come up with a mozzarella that's really
Wow.
noxious off too, and it's the equivalent of that soft mozzarella that you buy in the fluid in the store. You know, the little balls of mozzarella. Fantastic. I love it on pizza and all kinds of stuff. It's totally delectable and pleasing in every way, in the same way that people would think of the classic cheeses. So yeah.
That is so cool. Well, I could listen to you talk about food experiments all day because that's what I love to do. And for those who are curious and want to learn more, please tell us how to reach you, how to get in touch with you guys, and what you guys have in store for us today.
Okay, so they want to follow along on my adventures. I'm Plant Food Chef. That is my on Facebook. So if they go to Plant Food Chef, all one word, on Facebook, they can follow my musings there and different recipes and just things I'm concerned about with the environment and plant-based and all that stuff. They also can reach me here at Living Light, and it's james@rawfoodchef.com. Okay, and then they can go to rawfoodchef.com, our website, and look at all the different courses I've been explaining here. And of course, contact me via that same email, james@rawfoodchef.com, and I'll be happy to go over anything with them on how to carve out a pathway to get them here for a more brilliant, optimized, healthy lifestyle. So, and I'm going to put together an ebook, or I have put together an ebook of some of my favorite fermentation recipes about some tempeh, kombucha, kefir, kimchi. I've got this Indonesian kimchi that uses a sambal oelek, a raw sambal oelek hot sauce that I've made that is based on a hot sauce I learned from someone in Bali, a friend in Bali. And I've fused that with the Korean style kimchi, so I call it an Indonesian kimchi. So that recipe will be in there. So, and that's a free ebook. We'll have a link, and people can feel free to grab that and have some fun playing around with some ferments.
Thank you so much. That link will be at the bottom of the email where you found this interview, so don't miss it. These must be really good recipes. And last, before you go, I am on a mission to get people to eat more vegetables. I think they can solve a lot of individual problems, a lot of social problems, and a lot of environmental problems. But I think they also help us lose a lot of weight. What would
Yes.
be one great weight loss recipe that uses lots of veggies that you could share with our people? Or
Lots.
secret?
Okay. That's like every recipe in my curriculum here. That's that. Okay. So let me think here.
It can be a tip. It doesn't have to be a recipe.
Yeah, you know, the tip that I have is to just have fun in bringing salads in throughout the day. If you think about your plate as a pie plate and a pie chart, let's say, and move that salad from a quarter of that pie chart to 50% at first. and then have fun. You're not going to change your whole lifestyle overnight. Just get more veggies on there. And there's so many different ways you can use them. That salad category can be also spiralizing the vegetables into pasta and then putting a healthy pasta sauce on that isn't high in fat and dairy, you know, and so play around with that category of salad. That's a huge category when you're talking plant-based foods. So if they can just do it incrementally and move it around their plate until they're at whatever works for them, I guarantee you're going to come into a healthier body mass index and weight for your own body. You know, it's going to happen. You know, I don't even think about dieting anymore, and I'm back to the 32-inch waist I had in high school. And I don't call my eating lifestyle a diet. It's a lifestyle. You know, it just is, and it's a passion for all the gifts that Mother Nature brings to us on the plate and straight from the garden. So.
Thank you so much, James. That's some great advice. I myself love to follow that and have as many salads as possible and make them as fun as possible. They don't even feel like salads. You're absolutely right. It's just my amazing food every day.
And the amazing thing about greens is that category goes with everything. So your dark leafy greens, you got to have them for protein, but you can put them with fruit. You can put them with everything. They're that thing that you don't have to worry about food combinations with. So have fun with it, trying everything you can with all those incredible greens. And that includes herbs. I'm not just talking about lettuce, all your greens. That's so important in our source of protein in a plant-based diet.
It is.
Yeah.
Oh, thank you so much, James. Thank you, everyone. I will have more interviews for you in the Veggie Shift. See you next time. Bye.